we've mentioned when we did the intro to ITAD, you mentioned there about how organizations are really embracing ITAD because they've got big green IT, ESG, sustainability goals, etc.
Yeah.
Like from your point of view, obviously we know the answers. It's a huge benefit, but doing the ITAD process realistically, what is the actual benefit in your corporate green IT sustainability? Like, what's your sell when you're going into a new client about that side of things? How ITAD can help?
Well, I mean, there's numerous ways that it can help. Obviously, you've got the basic ones and the obvious ones, like you said. You can get rebate back for your stock, which obviously is additional cash coming back to you. That can also help with your tech debt as well, because obviously, if
Yep.
you're looking to buy a new tech and you can't exactly buy it right then, right now, if you recycle your old stuff and get that resold through an ITAD, that gives you that lump sum of money that you can then invest back into your business. So you can modernize your business, you can improve your business by that avenue, which obviously a lot of companies do look to do, especially when warranties come up. So you've
Yep.
got that one element. Obviously, you're reducing your CO2 down by making sure it isn't going to a landfill, it isn't going in the skip, it isn't going in them crates and being shifted somewhere that we don't know where it's going. Obviously, you are reducing your CO2 because you're recycling it in the proper manner, you're handling it in the correct format, and it's actually been broken down into parts to be reused in some form. Sometimes you can reuse just the screen and actual parts on its own and they don't actually get recycled, but then obviously you can put it through the recycling process and you can pull out the materials and the metals that can then be used in another form. So that's a really good way to making sure that you're aiding your sustainability projects and any of the targets that you've got within a company. Not only that as well, the most important one is your data as well, because back 15, 20 years when you used to just chuck your laptop in the skip and in the landfill, anyone can pick that up. And I'm not being funny, passwords weren't really that great back in the day either. Anyone can probably hack into that. And there you go, all your data's out there for the world to see. We see so many leaks of data from so many companies. And the easiest and the best way to try and avoid this is to go through an ITAD company who have the proper measures, the proper systems, the proper protocol in place to make sure this data is gone and erased. It protects your company, it protects you. Not only are you aiding for a better planet, making yourself more sustainable, making yourself more green, reducing your CO2, you're also getting money back for it as well. I
Yeah.
mean, there's not really a reason to not use an ITAD. I know some people obviously like to try and keep it in-house and do it themselves, but then you've got to have a lot of manpower, you've got to have a lot of knowledge, you've got to know the systems, you've got to have all the systems in place, and they're not cheap to run and be cost effective. It makes more sense to hand it out to someone who can then handle it for you, who knows exactly what they're doing, and then just get your money back for it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it is a no-brainer, and I think you meant well the key security angle that you just said there is massive, right? How many
Yeah.
times do you see on LinkedIn or Computer Week or something that there's been another data breach here, there's been another data breach
Yeah,
there? It's just yeah, crazy. And to be honest, a
exactly.
lot of that can happen when people try and do it internally themselves. They think if they reset it back to factory default, you're sorted.
That is
And
it.
you
And that is not it. That's the thing. We've come across so many people that are like, oh, I've factory reset it, so it should be fine now. And you're like, no,
yeah,
no. You need to make sure you're using a legitimate, legal, proper system in
yeah.
place that can actually fully erase that data. Even then, even when you have these systems, you have to make sure you're using the right setting for the right asset and making sure you're doing it the correct way. Isn't just a simple case of having the system going, oh, let's run that and it's done. You have to make sure you're setting it up correctly to make sure it is run on the correct setting, to make sure that it is completely erased in the right form. And not only that as well, even if you decided you didn't want to do that and you want to take it apart and shred it, you still need to make sure you've got a suitable shredder that shreds it right down to the right millimeter. And they're not cheap either. So
What?
you need
Hold
to
on,
make
hold
sure
on.
that you're
I'm
going to the
learning.
right place.
Yeah, I'm learning so much. Right, selfishly from an ITAD point of view, the actual
Yes,
process of it, when picking an ITAD provider, you're like, yeah, you got all the certifications. Yeah, we've seen your warehouse where you do it, but you don't actually know the nitty gritty there of what you've explained about having the right settings with your data destruction tool, the right millimeter
exactly.
of shredding stuff. So
Yeah,
that's really interesting. So when you let's start on the first point there, you mentioned about the right settings for the right device. Does that mean, like, for example, like I just assume that the tool, like things like Blanco and stuff like that, you literally just plugged it in, Blanco, whatever, loaded it up and gone boom, and it completed, and off you go. But you're saying it's actually more complicated than that.
I mean, to a degree, obviously, you do plug it in and you run the system. But then when it comes to the actual erasure point where you click your button to go erase, you have, I think it's about 8 or 10 different options and different settings on which you can erase. And you need to make sure you're selecting the correct one. If you don't, it either won't erase properly and it will fail, or it won't completely get rid of that data. So you need to make sure you're actually using the correct setting for the right ones. So there's been a big article that has come out recently on this. So it is one that's been essentially, a company has retested all the different ways of wiping it and realised when they went back into it that it wasn't doing what it should be. So they've gone, this is the setting you should be using for XYZ, blah blah blah. So it's things like that unless you're an ITAD, you wouldn't know. So you could think you're erasing your data correctly, and it actually might still be on there. So you need to make sure you're using the correct settings for the correct system.
So, okay, so how do you? So that's crazy. So you mentioned something you said in there as well about is if you don't have the right settings for erasing the right system, the actual data destruction tool can fail, right?
Yeah.
If it fails, and you've got the right settings in the system, does that mean you can't repurpose that and you have to go and shred the hard drive?
It would mean we would have to shred the drive if like we use Blanco, for example. So if Blanco was to fail and there is no avenue in which that we can rerun that to clear that, and it is a fail, then the drive will get dismantled and will be shredded. If it's soldered to the board, then the whole thing gets shredded because there's no way of taking it out. I know, painful, but it protects the data.
No, of course, yeah. The data breach could be way more painful than selfishly from an ITAM point of view, not getting rebate back or not being able to reuse it. But
exactly.
Why would it fail? Like, what causes like Blanco, for example, to fail the data erasing? Well,
I mean, there's numerous things. It could be that, like I said, someone hasn't used the right setting and hasn't had the knowledge to make sure that they are changing it to get the correct setting. Sometimes people will think it's the right one, they'll erase it, it's failed, and they've got it's failed. Right. So sometimes that can be an element. Sometimes it could be something to do with the actual asset itself. If the drive's damaged, sometimes that can affect it. There's numerous little technical things that could be it. But for us personally, if we've run it on the correct program and we know it is a fail, we would take that drive out and shred it, because it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah,
it's done. It's protecting the data, and that is our main job as an ITAD, to make sure that data is gone. So that's our priority.
And get your clients the best prices.
And get our clients the best prices.
Yeah. To everyone who's from the ITAM world watching, data is obviously important, but the right prices is obviously massively important. But so that's crazy. So what kind of percentage of one, say for example, you did a big collection, or on your LinkedIn, I highly recommend you go follow Sarah on LinkedIn, because she posts pictures of when she's doing a project, when they're doing a complete office like refurb. You go and see the before and after pictures, and it's gone from those beige coloured monitors and desktops to lovely new Lenovo's and that. Yeah. But so when you're doing something like that, when you've got en masse devices, is it a small percentage rate that fail all of the Blanco or other data erasing tools are available?
It generally does tend.
Is it small percentage?
It generally tends to be really small. Yeah, the majority. Well, in our experience anyway, because I can only talk in my experience.
Yeah,
but
of course, yeah.
From the collections we've had, it will be a very, very small amount. Sometimes we don't get any at all, which is fantastic. But we're talking probably in the 2%. So it is a very small. Blanco is a fantastic system. It is really, really effective. It does exactly what it says on the tin, and that's the reason why we use it, because in our opinion, it is the best of the best, and that's all we want to provide for our clients. But obviously, you're always going to have that element of a fail. It doesn't mean anything's happened with Blanco. It doesn't mean Blanco's incorrect. It's just something else has happened and it's just not worked. It's going to happen. It's one of those things that you can never get 100% success in anything, but to make it that 100% success, take the drive out, you shred it, and then 100% has been wiped one way or another. But very small, about 2%, I'd say. It is very, very minor if it does happen.
That's not too bad then, because Blanco, to be very honest, every time when we look for the Sandbeast Consulting massive corporation, we're always looking for Blanco, to be honest, as being the tool that they're using for data erasure, simply because, personally, I think it is the best. The outputs that you get from it as well as an ITAM person for audit stuff is really good when you're, have to prove your ITAD process, the data destruction. And then also, exactly like you said, when you do have those data fails, you still get the output from that. Then you've got the evidences
that and everything with it.
Yeah.
So you still get the evidence that it's been run and it's failed. You can still see everything you need to know on that system. So we think it's the best. That is why we use it. We think it's really important for everyone to have a full picture of the whole entire process. And I think the Blanco certificate does provide that element very, very well. So that is why we do use it.
Blanco, if you want to sponsor anything or no, I'm joking.